Crouch. Bind. Set.
Joe presents the House of Rugby, together with Guinness.
Hello and welcome to episode 3 of House of Rugby, brought to you by Joe, together with our friends at Guinness, and alongside for the ride once again, Mr. Jim Haskell. How are you? What have you learnt this week?
I like the nickname Jim.
Good. We're rebranding you.
Yeah, again, I'm not sure how we survived to a third week. We're still behind Peter Crouch.
It is a great pleasure to have, fashionably late, I think I might say, because I think your face has been all over the marketing material. We've used your name to promote the pod, but you only turn up in week 3. Mr. Mike Tindall, how are you?
I'm very well. It was all contractual issues.
Good.
We finally ironed them out.
Good. It's fantastic to have you here. What's keeping you busy? You're looking well, fresh?
Yeah, obviously a 5-month-old is keeping me massively busy. Turning 40 also is fun. I feel good for 40.
Good.
And trying to enjoy as much of life as I possibly can.
What did you do for the 40th?
We went down to the south of France, took 30 people and...
had a good time.
Had a very good time.
Good. And last time I saw you were head to toe in Lycra. You're doing quite a bit. Can you put your phone
Don't
away?
appear to have
The invite.
an invite on the thing.
well,
This is
no.
weird.
Well,
I was just going to check in case I missed it in my junk mail folder.
Someone told me you were still trying to play rugby. So
I am.
Are you still trying to play rugby?
I am still trying to play rugby every now and then. I'm a little bit concerned that your contract negotiations took this long. You better not be earning more than me, because my chat has been skyrocketing this thing.
That was some of it I was worried about, sitting next to the Lord of Banterbury, that I would have to make sure I brought my A game, but then I watched the first 2 shows and realised
basically knows earnings.
yeah.
I was saying, because last time I saw you were head to toe in Lycra, you're quite active at the moment. Lots of biking and golf.
Bits of biking and a lot of golf. That's the best
golf.
thing about retirement, James. I'm not sure that golf's your thing. You're just doing
Shooting, I could do the shooting.
squats.
No. I do the shooting. I chose to do shooting as opposed to golf.
Right.
Just purely out of the fact that you have to walk round, or you can use a buggy, but it just seems quite painful.
So yeah, otherwise a bit of charity stuff.
Yeah.
Golf day. Try and do this ski thing. There's bits in between.
And you're not going to be at Twickenham on Saturday because...
I'm very excited. My wife managed to sort out for my 40th that I'm going to play Augusta, so I'm not going to be...
Jesus,
the
it's a
last
hard
thing
life,
on my
isn't
mind
it?
will be how things are going for Eddie. That'll be the last thing.
Yeah.
But no, I'm very excited about it.
You need to hurry up and retire. It's an absolute blast once you're out of boots.
My missus is not going to sort me out with playing at Augusta. And actually, I might be forced to retire, so you never know.
That's very true. You're well on your way to that.
Not through injury, just people just go, we've had enough of you.
Yeah.
Or I'll put my foot in it with this show, because I keep getting quite near to revealing probably just a little bit too much.
Yes.
But the thing is, if you don't live on that edge, what's the point in living?
What's the point of living?
That is a quote to live by. And you've done well.
Yeah.
You've lived on the edge, absolutely killed it.
Exactly.
You're now HRH/Lord of the Man. What more do you need?
Right, enough of this frivolous chat. Let's get into what we're going to talk about this week. Coming up on the show, we're going to dive headfirst into the autumn internationals, which obviously start at the weekend. We'll ask what represents success for Eddie Jones over the next few weeks. We'll discuss whether the All Blacks are beatable, perhaps all eyes on Ireland in that regard. And we'll look at whether Wales can get one over Australia at long last. Plus, James...
Yes, Alex and the production team have got a challenge about me on me.
Which is, of course, your specialist subject. So we'll come on to that a little bit later on. But first of all, to the autumn internationals. And if you don't know by now, just quickly skip through the weekend's fixtures. Japan against New Zealand, followed by Wales against Scotland, England against the Box, and Ireland will take on Italy in Chicago. But we're going to start with England first of all. For you, what represents a minimum return for Eddie Jones and England this November?
I think minimum 3 from the 4.
Minimum is 3 from 4.
Yeah. If they want to be where they think they are or where they thought they were.
Yeah.
I know they're obviously hit with injuries, but they've had success against Australia. They need to continue that. Obviously, they finished off the last test against South Africa, but the way they played those 3 games in terms of the rugby they played in the first 2 shows that they were back to actually trying to play with an attacking intent. They need to shore up their defence, but they have to go at home. They need to be winning and putting a good performance against New Zealand.
Do you think they are set up to do that?
No, probably not at the moment. Obviously, they're getting hit with injuries, but I still believe the players are good enough. It's just whether they can go back to getting that style of rugby where they actually threaten people. And they, you go back to the early days when Eddie took over. It was all about the intensity that they played at, and then that message has sort of shifted to it became more about how hard they trained, and I don't want to see that. I want to see quick tap penalties. I want to see them lifting the pace of the game, which got them the success. And you think of the 3 games they won in Australia was built on the back of that, and that's how I prefer to see them play. If they lose playing that sort of rugby, you can sort of at least you're getting the performance out of them and you're getting something to watch. But I think they'll win that Australia game and they'll win the Bok game if they can do that. And then hopefully I think they've got the players to take it to New Zealand. But we'll have to wait and watch this space. I think we'll find out on Saturday how they it's talked too much about power game now, which is the power
You're slapping
man
the very large biceps of the man alongside.
The power man that's not around at the moment, but he needs to move away from that and get back to the movement game.
But still find space for a little bit of power. That's what you're saying.
Yeah,
obviously.
And a fantastic beard.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, it's powerful, isn't it?
Yeah,
I'm impressed with that.
Yeah, it's come along very nicely. Eddie Jones.
Yes.
What is his mindset? I mean, you've obviously spoken to him recently. What is his mindset coming to this autumn? And do you think he is a man under pressure?
It's sad that he's under pressure, just because I think he's excellent at what he does. I truly believe, of all my experiences with England, I've enjoyed the most under Eddie. I think that, however lucky I've been to play for England, the most important thing is not just getting a cap; it's doing something in a cap and winning silverware. And under Eddie, we've had the opportunity to win silverware. I think that he is, he's great with the players. He obviously pushes people hard, and he sets a standard that some people can't live with. And I think that he's the right man for the job to take us up to the World Cup. And I think a lot of people who have opinions about him and what he does, they can't come up with solutions. Everyone just wants to get rid of everyone, but no one ever comes up with a solution afterwards. And it's just, the good thing about rugby is it isn't football. There isn't that kind of quick fire assassinations. And I think, Eddie, for me, would have been, as he always is, constantly thinking about improving himself, which a lot of people don't appreciate. He's always going off and speaking to people, speaking to other coaches. I know he did something with Sir Alex Ferguson and a few bits and pieces. He's
Pep
always
Guardiola, he's been to see as well.
And he's always trying to learn and improve himself, and constantly look at the training model that the guys are using and the staff that he's got in camp. And I think, for me, his mindset will be wanting to put on a good performance, wanting to ultimately see those areas improvements. As Tin says, attack. Yeah. There was question marks over that attack in South Africa. For all the games, actually, apart from the third one, they started unbelievably well, and they came back in that third one and put the performance on. And they wanted to start fast. I think with John Mitchell defensively, he wants to wrap that up. He wants to use that as a real weapon. Eddie analyses the game very completely, and kind of understands the difference between the broken play, the set piece, the unorganised, the unstructured and structured play. And he wants England to be at the top across the board, built behind a very good set piece. And I think the guys, if you look at the squad, he's picked a good combination of operators that will hopefully guarantee that good ball for some big back ball runners.
We'll come on to that in just a moment.
If that is not the perfect Eddie PR to get you back in the squad, there's nothing.
I don't do PR.
Should we
honestly,
clip it up and send it off to him?
Yeah, obviously send it off to him. I'll show it to him on a presentation PowerPoint. Eddie, here's the 10 reasons why I should be in the squad. No, I genuinely think, in the past, and as a rugby player, as we all do, when you've got bosses and when you've got people, you often aren't able to say exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people in that life.
Did you not say once that he can go off like a volcano? You fear him and respect him in equal measure.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
I said he's like an atomic bomb. I said obviously, I met Eddie years and years ago when my contract was up with Wasps, and I went when he was at Saracens. I had a chat with him, got to know him then, and obviously I've met him over the years since. I played against Suntory when he was coaching, when I was playing for Rico in Japan. And he's always, I've always really respected what he's done. But you always hear about him as a person. He runs things with an iron fist.
Yeah.
And when he came into England camp, he was unbelievably friendly, really kind of empowering. And the one thing that Eddie does better than anyone, I find, with his players in particular, I can't speak about the staff, but the players, he understands what makes each player tick.
Yeah.
And that's the difference between him and other coaches. He speaks to you on a level. He knows how to motivate you. He remembers little details about you. He's constantly trying to offer you advice how to improve, encouraging you.
Yeah.
And that's important. I think a lot of times, especially in rugby, we focus so much on the negative about what players don't do, what players can't do. And for Eddie, I've always seen him seeing the positive in it, going, actually, you're really good at this, you're really good at that. This is what you need to do, mate. Don't think about anything else. Just do this.
What was your directive? Smash things.
Yeah, basically, and just carry hard. That was it.
That was it.
Yeah. Come on, mate. Just hit that bloke really hard. Like, okay.
You're not great at catching. Well,
I am actually. I am. And there's a few highlight reels on YouTube that will be available with this.
Have you edited those yourselves?
No, I haven't actually.
A little bit of time on the computer. Did you? Because obviously you were part of the England side that had the hex over Australia for a number of years. Did you ever come across? I mean, obviously 2003, the final being the clearest example. Did you ever come across Eddie back in the day?
In terms of to meet and chat to and pick his brain about it? Not really, no, not at all.
Have you dealt with him since he's been in the post at all?
I've spoken to him a couple of times randomly when I've bumped into him at Penny Hill Park, but I haven't really got down to chew the fat with him in terms of what's his philosophy on life and what's his philosophy on the
game. Do you think it's probably an easier question to ask you? Do you think he is a man under pressure? I mean, Brian Moore said this week in his Telegraph article he should take England to the World Cup regardless of what happens. Would you agree with that, or if things go wrong? Is there time to make the change?
There is time to make the change, but I think he would go to the World Cup. I think it's not worth making that change now. It puts even more pressure on the guy who comes in. But I think you can't say he's not doing a great job because he won 20 games out of 21. And coaches just don't do that if they're not any good. I think what happened for England is they went on this sort of extended run of winning ugly. And then they've almost sort of forgotten the rugby that they were playing when they were performing, and then suddenly sort of power sort of crept in, and it was just one-out runners. They need to go back to they had forwards just doing little tip passes, moving the point of contact. Then they had the backs all running at pace onto the ball, and they were using the ball wisely. And the variation in their game that was there in that Australia tour, it slowly sort of the performances have just dropped. And when you then go, right, let's look at a game that we won, they'd have to go back a year to look at probably where they actually got the performance they would want. So, and that was, I know that Haskell said about his language to players, but his language to the media has then also changed in terms of what it talks about. Power is speed versus mass and all that, which is, whereas when he first came in, it was all about the speed of the ball and speed of how quickly we're going to play. We're going to put that team under so much intense pressure that they have to try and keep it with. And that is the bit that I think has disappeared. Is it's very set piece now. It's whereas before, Ben Young's quick tap bang, they're gone. Danny Care gone, and Danny Care would be quite a good player actually. Ben Young's scored 2 or 3 tries off quick taps, and that's sort of gone. That's where I want to see them go back to, which I thought in South Africa, even though they lost the games, that speed of ball that they talked about was there. And you look at, I haven't been a really big Ben Youngs fan over the past sort of year. I think he spends too much time looking around rather than pass the ball. But then you watch him in the Heineken Cup, in the Champions Cup, against whoever they played, and every ball was bang, gone, gone. And it brought Manu more into the game. It allows forward to be on the front foot. And I think if we can get back to the speed of those breakdowns, clearing people out, moving it and getting the ball away, then that's where we will threaten, because we have the players to threaten. Yeah.
Give us a little bit of insight into what the camp in Portugal have been like. Is it bloody hard work, or is it light touch tactics?
There's no such thing as light touch ever. Right. I haven't actually had too much feedback with the lads. I've kind of let them get on with it. I've spoken to
Are you out of the WhatsApp group now?
Yeah, they throw you straight out.
Do they really?
Oh, it is unbelievable.
Savage.
Literally.
Ruthless.
Honestly, as soon as you're named in, it's like, welcome back, how is everyone?
Haskell,
and then honestly, as soon as you're not picked, boom, dust.
Who's in charge of the keys to that?
Normally
classified
it was
information?
classified actually, but normally the security were running that, and
really?
You were dusted, and you have the text group, nothing personal, but you're not in. It was honestly ruthless.
Double tap to the back of the head.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I just say when a Tins,
at least it's to the chest.
Yeah, true.
It is.
Yeah,
one of the things that Tins said is interesting, that the voice to the kind of media. I think one thing I've always loved about Eddie is that he's always spoken his mind, and he loves. I think he realises, like a lot of us do, that. The media.
Is he playing a game with the media?
Oh, 100%.
Because he flips the coin and says one thing one week and another the next.
I mean, I just think you've got to understand that. I would say, that there's not a lot of consistency in our media. I think, 1 minute they say this, next minute they say that. They want someone out.
Sensationalising
of course,
everything, isn't it?
And they constantly say this thing. So if you try to treat them with a level playing field and actually straight back and say this and this and this, you're going to get bitterly disappointed when suddenly next week they write something completely different. So Eddie, I think, just approaches it is they're not going to give him any slack and are going to share what he's actually saying or come up with a formulated, considered opinion. They're going to suddenly go, we need an article this week where you say Eddie's wrong. So he says he's wrong. So I think Eddie just goes like that. Actually, I don't care. Talk about speed, mass, times thing, because they just look at him and they just don't get that normally.
No.
And I just think it's quite a fun game. I just think it's quite nice. I like managers and coaches to do it.
Yeah, but it was fun when he was winning. It's not so fun when because when you do it when we're going on a run where we don't win, then they'll just lay it. But I suppose they lay into him
anyway.
more.
Yeah.
They lay into him more than they lay into the players. It's the ultimate deflection away from the players, isn't it?
But they lay into you anyway. I just think it's a hiding to nothing. I think that's where other managers are gone wrong, is that you try to befriend the media and expect any kind of consistency, even inviting them in. I remember the days where we used to have everyone in, like meet them, shake them in the hand, all sorts of people, ex-coaches, ex-players, expecting some level of consistency. And then when it was like burn the whole place down, kill everyone.
I love the way you are damning the media as you walk that very fine line from poacher to gatekeeper.
I have said this. If I was ever to go into media, I will
If
not
I
just...
was ever to.
I just won't bag people like that. I just don't... I think...
You've got to be balanced.
You have, but you've got to be balanced and formula. You don't want to do... there's some people who just go completely off piece and talk about, like, your Zen and all that stuff. And then you've got the other kind of person that actually is formulating. Go, you don't... A person who makes a mistake on the field, unless they walk over and headbutt someone... They're not intentionally doing that. No. Nobody's trying to make any mistakes anyway.
No one becomes a bad player overnight.
No, I think while it won't make things overly interesting, I will never. I remember what it's like to be on the end of it, and all you want is some consistency and the ability to say, actually, look, so and so's made that mistake. He's going to bear that more than anyone else.
Yeah,
I'm not going to be one of these blokes who just goes, he's terrible. He should be fired because it's easy.
Get rid of him.
Yeah, it's easy, but it's not worth it.
Do you worry about even things like this getting it wrong?
Oh, 100%.
Do you really?
Oh, I cannot.
And do you enjoy that? I mean, do you like tiptoeing around the cliff edge?
I'll be honest with you. I always feel after doing any kind of prolonged interview, or even after this, I feel a bit like a bit uneasy.
Do you?
What I said.
Yeah, all the time. Honestly, so I get my missus to listen to it.
Right.
And then she gives me the lowdown and
You
says...
want to thank the editors here in particular for keeping it...
No, I haven't said anything overly bad. I just think that... What are you talking about? I think that...
the offcuts really.
I remember, where Will Chignall years ago, where we did Sky offered us to do like media training.
Yeah.
And we honestly had a thing where he set up a full camera, lights, he would film it, and he'd get like me, Tom Rees, or some of the other younger players, and he'd always talk about stuff being left on the cutting room floor, and that always stood by me. And also just answer the question you want, not the question they asked.
Very true.
Which I loved doing.
When we first did it, and we started media, me and Bolsh were in a lift, and then we were going to media training, and the lift opened, and then it was bang, camera in front of you, and he was just shouting questions at you like, Bolsh, you're leaving Bath at the time. Where are you going? Is it true? And Bolsh is like, no. It's just like to be put into that situation of somebody it's questions that you're not expecting, and he was like, "You just don't have to answer them." You say, "I'm not."
Because I was going to ask you the same question. Do you relax when you retire? But actually, given where you are in life now, I mean, do people help you with media training, or do you just kind of do your own thing?
Well,
do you feel pressure?
I think
everything you do?
I think it's definitely changed. It used to be a lot more relaxed because most of the journos were quite friendly.
But you sort of moved out to the sports
back in the early 2000s. They'd be all out in the bar with you, so you never had to worry about that. And then
you and Webb Ellis having a laugh on the field.
And then it would be, but then sort of I remember it was when Robbo was in charge of England that it really sort of changed. I always remember.
For you personally, or just the name of the game?
No, just the game.
Yeah.
It suddenly became very much more like Andy Robinson had a horrific time in terms of media, just drilling him, and that's sort of when it changed and everyone sort of like separated. Right, you can't really talk to them. They were pushed away.
But you've never been. See, I'd say with Tins, there's lots of ex-players that have an opinion, obviously. But I would never say Tins is one of those blokes you got to worry about who's instantly forgotten what it was like to be in the spot. Obviously, he's still in the spotlight, but do you know what I mean? He's not a dick. He's never been one of those guys like that. Yeah. Whereas there are some people who have quickly. No, I'm not going to name them because again, I don't want to.
But is there a list? I mean, could you trip it off
so
now?
If you went around the country and looked at players, there are a list of players and a list of people that lads will come in and go, I just can't. But like, what planet is he on? And that is an issue. But understand, everyone's got to put money on the table. Everyone's got to sell papers, sell journalists, create creation. But there's a lot of cheap knifing going on for the sake of it. And I think once you're a good player, if you're a good lad, you're always a good lad. But a lot of people sort of forget that.
Profound.
You talk about it afterwards. So when Danny had his issues in Jersey, I didn't really know much about it. I'd spoken to lads about it, and they were like to the Gloucester boys, and they were like, it wasn't really a big deal. It wasn't really anything, and it just happened. If it wasn't Danny, would it have actually gone down the way it went down? And then Jim White rang me up, and Jim White's as much as I like him, he's quite a sensationalisation.
There's a football world that he comes from.
And
Is there snooker
so
Sorry, you're bringing the chat to
yeah.
Sorry.
And he rang me up, and I was at a golf day, and he was like, "Oh, can we have a chat about Danny?" And I was like, "Well, I haven't. It was literally just been to court, so I hadn't read anything about what had come out of the court." He's rung me up, and he's like,
"You're live on air. Can we have a chat?"
Yeah, basically
halfway through your backswing.
Yeah, basically, and he sort of drilled me about it, and I was like, "Look, I don't think Danny should be dropped from the England squad because of it. I think people get into those situations all the time. It just happens to be that Danny is Danny, and they make a big deal about it. I still think what he does on the field is the most important bit. And there's always the chat about role models and is he actually a role model? It's not about role models. Nothing he does, nothing you do when you start a rugby career or a sports career is you're not thinking about what you're going to teach the young kids. You're about to be a sportsman, you have to be selfish. So you have to live your life. You live it however you live it, and then you make up. How the cards are dealt is how the cards are dealt. So I've gone, look, I don't think he should be. I think I like characters in the game, and then he's cut it, and someone sent me the recording that he said, and as he's cut it, he's like done a tagline: I like characters in the game, but I also don't like men who hit women.
What?
Because it was reported that the police. It was reported. It wasn't even fact that the policewoman had bruises. And it was just like he's completely hung me out to dry, and the fact that he says that I'm okay because that's okay because he's a good lad, but he's then go, well, I don't like people who hit women or hit coppers. Yeah. And I was like, he was absolutely done me. And there was no need for it. I was just saying that.
Just put the phone down, concentrate on the golf.
The sport wants characters. Yes. It wants people it wants gazzers. It wants people who are different but brilliant. But then the media want them until they do something wrong, and then because they want to then just. Knock them off their pedestal, but then they're quite happy to then rebuild them back up there. Yeah, and it's just like, why just not be balanced and just go?
Well, you've had a bit of that though, haven't you?
I will. I have done. I will say this: I'm always comfortable to say, I always want to be honest and genuine in what I believe in, and say that to the extent that I'm able to, but also be comfortable that if I was to say it in front of my mum or say it to someone else, because a lot of the stuff. Once you know the whole picture, which a lot of fans, a lot of people on social media and kind of stuff don't have that perspective and don't understand, and a lot of journalists, they comment. And a lot of my favourite thing is ex-coaches and ex-players who have no idea about what's going on, literally no idea. And it's like me going to an Oasis concert, watching them, play 10 times and thinking I can pick up a guitar and start singing and be able to comment on what they're doing. I mean, I could have a good guess because I can vaguely see what he's doing, but I couldn't give you any detail. What irritates me is people looking in from the outside saying, I think this is a problem, I think this is a problem, I think that's a problem, negativity. It's like, no, that's not correct. And I think as long as you're genuine and you're not offensive, but life... now is you offend everyone doing anything. Everyone gets offended.
Everyone's waiting.
And as long as it's not overly controversial, you have to stick to your guns. You have to be honest, and that's what I try to do. But there is obviously more that you would like to reveal, but it just gives you more of a headache. But I think that it's important to have an opinion, be honest, because otherwise you just get a load of robots. And I think if you understand that the media will either do you in the eye or support you, but it's cyclical, and you just stay genuine to yourself, then that's the key.
Fascinating insight. I think the question I asked was what were the England squad doing in Portugal at the moment?
We've taken the task for it.
They'll be working very hard.
I've seen on Instagram they play a lot of golf actually, so I think they are
getting ready for retirement by the sound of it.
Yeah, exactly.
You're watching the House of Rugby on Joe, together with Guinness.
Noticeable this week that neither of you have bought a notebook, so I will bring a little bit of detail. For those of you who get your news,
I would like to say mine's in my bag.
Yours in your bag. Clean table.
I like to
clean
say
mind.
that.
Yeah.
Still haven't got one.
Mine's in the old grey cells, as Poirot said.
For those of you who get your news via Pigeon, let's very quickly skip you through the breaking news just before we started recording, which is that Eddie Jones has trimmed the England squad to get ready for the South Africa game. He has sent home Mike Brown for the first time since he took over as England head coach. Ben Morgan, which is an interesting one given how much media he's been doing this week. Courtney Law's injured. Joe Thuckner-Singer has gone home. Alex Lazowski obviously still embroiled in this. Will he or won't he be banned? Richard Wigglesworth. Michael Rhodes has left the camp. Sam Underhill, Nick Schoenert and Ted Hill have all gone home. So that very quickly leaves you with Curry, Ewells, George, Hartley, Hepburn, Itoje Cruz, Mercer, Moon, Shields, Sinclair, Stooke, Williams and Wilson in the forwards. Ashton, Kerr, Farrell, Ford, May, Knoll, Slade, Teo, Tuolangi, Youngs and Daly. I'll slide it over so you can digest it as we see it. I'll come to you because you had a little bit longer to take that in. Thoughts up front. One or two on social media saying that if you consider the size and the power of the box, England are missing the biceps that sit alongside us here a little bit. I mean, what do you make first of all of the squad that he's picked?
Well, I think it's actually an exciting squad. I think I'm really interested in some of the players he's picked. Obviously, going with Mercer, we debated that kind of last week.
Does that now scream that he will start at 8, or would you put a Shields?
No, I
possibly?
think just looking at it now, I think you might go with Shields, Mark Wilson at 6, and Curry at 7. I think maybe.
How many games has Shields played since we've been back fit?
He played two or three.
2 or 3, possibly.
Slightly less than me.
Take it on, and Dwayne Vermeulen is obviously now lining up for the box as well.
Oh,
It's
good.
You know, having
He's easy to
two
play
games
against.
and straight back in is a big call for me. Have you actually found your legs yet? Because it was broken cheek, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So it's a big call.
He's found his legs, just can't find his cheek.
I mean, I think Mercer would be a safer call in that. I think he's been playing well for Bath, but what do I know about forwards?
So is that Cruz and Itoje in the second row? Then you wouldn't
Yeah,
go with
well, actually, or I tell you
Yules?
what, I'm actually just looking at now. Yules obviously a very good line-out operator. Moon goes well. I think interesting enough, you might go with Itoje at 6 then. The way he's been playing. But I think what you've got to remember is we did at the top of the show. We talked about Eddie. Everything, even when he first came in, the very first thing he said is about the importance of set piece in England, and Borthers is hot on that line out. You've got to have, you've got to be able to look after the ball, and over here, Chris Boyd at Saints was talking about today. The one thing he knows. Has noticed the difference more so than anything else. You have to get your ball from your set piece. You can't be a lottery like it is sometimes in Super 15. You've got to consistently get your line-out ball and disrupt theirs as much as you can. The breakdown, is obviously huge, and the scrum ball. You've got to get playable ball from the scrum. So anything that they do and any formulation of pack they're going to have is going to be focused on those, 3 kind of areas.
Good stuff. What about the backs? And I suppose the key question is it Ford at 10, Farrell at 12, or would you go Farrell at 10 with a different combination in the centres?
I think originally I would probably have gone Farrell, and then I think Slade's been playing out of his skin. Obviously, Manu's back, and Manu played outstandingly well the other Friday. So that sort of takes out the forward-Farrell route for me, unless if you're going to put Manu in there.
Would you have him in immediately, or would you put him on the bench last 20 minutes?
The problem is, if you play Ford, Farrell, so that means you probably play Ford, Farrell, Slade. Or Daly.
Yeah.
But then
Surely we'll be at 15.
I would have thought he would, the way he's been going, he will start at 15. But so then you're sort of samey all the way across, whereas Manu gives you something a little bit different, a little straightener. Looking at the back 3 that they're going to have, the only one who could give you a little bit of grunt is probably is Jack Noel, isn't it?
Yeah.
You could start with Chief and Teo in the
Chief
midfield.
Manu.
Yeah, what a nickname! That for me is like the best nickname. There's 2 really, really, really good nicknames in rugby.
Yeah.
I've never had any nicknames, or none that I could actually possibly say on here,
Right.
or no decent ones anyway. Chief for Manu, what a nickname, and Don Waldock, the Duke. Those 2 were
Why the
awesome.
Duke? Am I being slow?
No,
Just the
I
Duke.
just called him the Duke. And I think one of the
Yeah,
guys
that's
at Harlequins one time came in at the beginning of pre-season. I can't remember his name. And the lads went, what's going on? He said, I'd like to be called the Duke. And he started calling himself the Duke. And they got into him, took the piss out of him, called him all sorts. And then he ended up being called Duke. I tried it, and it lasted a couple of days.
Yeah.
I thought a Duke or the governor or something, not the governor. That I'm not. That's Lawrence Delalio, that the governor.
Yeah.
Freddie Burns came dressed to a party as Gaddafi once, and then we realised he didn't have a mask on, so he was called Gaddafi from that on.
Yeah.
If you look at him, he does actually look like Gaddafi. But
That is very good.
where were we?
I said Teo. I said
talking
Teo
nicknames.
and Chief.
I think. I don't know whether you. Well,
be awesome. I just love to see
but
it.
if you're going to then set up the intricate out the back sort of plays, it doesn't really suit them.
Yeah.
Which is a big thing that they've fallen back on the hard runners up the middle and then the little drop it out the back. So I'm not sure whether they do that, and especially because Bentio hasn't played any rugby, has he?
Not a lot, no. In fact, very little.
Yeah. So I think they could start with Mano, and he'll be a 20-minute man.
Do you remember
Teo
when Manu
off, yeah.
burst on the scene? They've been in those World Cup warm-up games, aren't they? What do you remember of him as a mini chief?
You played in those, didn't we?
You would have you almost have babysat him into international rugby. He was unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, he's just been so unfortunate. I mean, the talent that he's got and the power that he's got is just phenomenal, and he's got a great engine with it, which is surprising for how big he is. He's carrying 108 kilos or whatever he is.
I think it was like 112.
But at that point, he's
yeah.
lost a lot now. You can see he's lost a lot now. But he would have been 112 sort of kilos then. But it's a shame that we've missed out on him in international rugby for 3 years.
Do you remember it was basically the Ireland warm-up game? So I remember when he first came in and we've seen him, and he was like doing pull-ups with like an 80-kilo dumbbell hanging off him and like doing like reps of it, and it was really friendly, but obviously. Was absolute machine. And they're playing the Irish World Cup warm-up game over in Dublin.
Yeah.
And honestly, like watching him play, he hit some hard lines, and the Irish centre was like, "Yours!" and literally running out the way. He like caused havoc. He hit David Wallace so hard
he did his
on the
knee.
touchline. Did his knee. Never played again.
No.
And honestly, like Chief was on fire that day. I remember he did a vertical. We had this guy came in during the World Cup 2015 to do this like vertical jump test.
Yeah.
And this guy had tested all the NBA, majority of the NFL, everything. And Manu did a vertical jump off forced platform, and it was the biggest by like a long way. Like it was ridiculous. But like they talk about him being so powerful that he.
But on the watt bike and stuff, he was like
Flames.
smashing proper sort of biker sprinters. Yeah, sort of at Chris Hoy level power output.
Really?
He obviously couldn't do it for as long as Chris Hoy could, but in terms of just going,
They reckon he gets
flat.
injured so much because he had a problem with his quads were so big and his legs that it was like causing him real hamstring issues. For a long time when he first came on the scene at Leicester, he had to like wear strapping,
Yeah.
to like help support him because he was that powerful. It was almost like tearing his body apart.
Yeah.
This could be a segment in the show. Things about Manu.
Yeah.
We just make them up.
Yeah.
We'll let you know.
Exactly, factoids. Is he one of those players? And obviously, you were all at that level in 03, but is he one of those players that when he's in the changing room, everyone sort of he empowers and gives others confidence because of his presence?
Yeah, I think.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. I think he's a great guy to have on your team just because of. He basically beat New Zealand when we at Twickenham. He can do things that a lot of other players just can't. But he has been very unlucky with the injuries. But I just remember there's occasions where, for his size, how fast he is, his footwork, how hard he wants to hit and how aggressive he goes. The thing, I think early days he used to get quite fired up, and you almost had to calm down, man.
Chill out a little bit.
Remember he always hit Chris Ashton's head off.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen that clip.
He took it well.
Can I just
to
say
be
something?
fair.
I honestly, we saw that the other day, clips again. And like fair play to Chris Ashton, because I reckon if Manu hit me like that, my head would have popped off. Like Ashley takes a left and then a right, and on the last right, it's like a Superman punch. Manu's off his feet, and Ashley's face caves in and pops back out again. I'd be dead.
The awful thing about it is Ashton was sent off as well.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Doing nothing.
And she was like, "Oh, but
then what have I done?
But then Woody didn't as well. I think Tom Wood and someone else joined in a fight. And had a fight, and they all got sent off as well. Or like they got red card, and the other lads got yellow card. It was madness.
Ashton to start, or bench,
Interesting.
or not?
It depends how you're going to play.
Yeah.
If you're going to make line breaks, you're going to play an expansive game, you need Chris Ashton on the field. He is the best support runner on the planet in terms of if ever you're making a line break, you're guaranteed you'll score because he will be there.
Yeah.
He spends most of his time in front of the ball.
Yeah.
But when it's on the other side, he's always there. And obviously, he got 3 tries on his first game back. I think.
How nice was that as well when you get 3 tries and you come back, like everyone be like moaning and slagging him.
I did watch them going, I hope there's a cracker in there. There wasn't really any crackers in there, was there? There was a 5 metre tap.
Just to let everyone know.
5 metre tap. They were all the. I was watching the highlights, and all of them were from 5 metres out where the highlights started.
It went down the end, but the best bit was he had no space and just went, instead of his normal dive, he just went like a quick swan dive.
It was a vertical one, wasn't it?
Up and down like a Chinook.
Yeah.
So, but you can't have I wouldn't have Ashley on the bench.
No.
Because he can't change a game for you. He's not someone who, off a kick return, is going to open the world up for you.
Yeah.
So he's either a starter or he wouldn't be in there for me. I mean, whereas Jack Noel can come off the bench and give you something, what you need. So can Johnny May. So
he's been on fire, hasn't he? I mean, obviously in South Africa, he was awesome.
Sensational.
I thought him and Curry were kind of the standout players.
My issue with Johnny is his defence.
Right.
It's not that he misses tackles, but the way England play at the moment, it's like they just want to pressure all the time.
Yeah.
But that puts a winger in a really bad position because a lot of times, if they're getting it wide, at some point he's got to stop because otherwise he's just out the line. They can throw it over the top. And then it's how he gets back to then use a touchline to help out his his outside centre to help him out.
Yeah.
And he got in that South Africa. So he made bad decisions, and that's. But then so did the South Africans with how many tries they conceded. All winger, because everyone wants to go forward and put loads of pressure on.
Yeah.
It puts wingers in a really, and that's where you need smarts. And at the moment, for some reason in rugby, that not many people seem to have the smarts.
That's what I said about Christian Wade last week.
Yes.
When I said actually his ability to tackle isn't an issue. It's just defensively, depending what system you're on, especially when Wasps used to have that blitz defence where you constantly had to be up. If you misread it, as you say, and you close that door and they loop the ball over the top of you to Villy Leroux or something like that, or if you then don't close the door when the opportunity is there, it's very difficult, and you need a very smart winger, not just someone who's got out and out pace. And that's why a lot of wingers get criticised for not great defence. It's not that; it's the decision making.
Yeah.
The actual tackling is good, but fans and people just go, "Oh, we can't defend." It's like, no, that's not what's happening.
So many things to talk about. We spent most of this chat talking about the media, but I do very quickly want to ask you, obviously no Willie Leroux, no Faf de Klerk, who was absolutely sensational this summer, but Malcolm Marks is back, Vermeulen is in, and then you look at people like Eben Etzebeth. Where do you see South Africa coming into this? How dangerous? How concerned?
Oh, I think they've got to be dangerous with their results this year, even though we won that last test. To go out, and I didn't think they'd win it. I thought we would go there and win all 3 tests, but that wasn't the case. And then obviously what they did against New Zealand on their back, basically on the back foot, defended like their lives depended on it, and got the intercepts and got where they pressurised them, forced a fumble, picked it up. I didn't see the second game against them where they sort of threw it away. They should have won it.
Yeah.
So they're obviously coming in on a fresh piece of form, which they haven't had for a long time. Their tails are going to be up because they're competing at the best. They've played New Zealand and stuck with them in 2 games.
Yeah.
So they're going to come here thinking that they want to set a marker down. Everyone's going to be wanting to go a year away from the World Cup. This is what we are. This is how we're going to play. This is what we are as an entity. And I think they're going to bring as much as they can. And if England don't quite get it right, then they could come unstuck with it.
Prediction time.
I will say, I think Philly missing.
Answer the question you want.
No, I will. I know. I will answer what I
Right.
talking
I
about.
think he's been on fire for
I think,
South Africa.
I think Philly
Who's
is
this?
a massive loss.
Yeah.
If you actually listen
And
to
Faf.
my unbelievable answers,
Well, you're not-
leaping in.
yeah, okay, go on.
Faf de Klerk and Villy Leroux, I think, are huge losses because Villy plays that position so well out the back for the passes.
Yeah.
He did it so well for Wasps last season, and he's brought that back to South Africa. That ability to play wide. He's got that actual real nice outside break. He's got that pace. He hunts the offload as well, like Ashley does. And obviously, Faf de Klerk has been like sensational. His ability to run with the ball, and they have that power game. And when you've got a 9 that snipes and brings their runners on at pace, everything about international rugby. Where they, Tins has said we all want to see that expansive rugby, but there is a massive element of power in there. You've got to have people, coming onto the ball at pace, and he does that because he's a threat himself. Yeah. So if you're watching a 9, watching the defenders, you can't get that line speed. So
and he doesn't let them set either. He doesn't mess around at the base. He's just bang in, out, in, running, ball off. Or he goes out the back to the tens, and as you say, once you get speed of ball in rugby, that's where defenders can't do that pressure, and then they're always scrambling and they'll make mistakes.
Best hair in the game as well right now.
Strong.
Zalzewski's gone.
It's strong.
Schwalewski was such a beautiful man.
He really was, wasn't he?
For a hooker.
For a hooker as well, he just stayed beautiful. He was like a better looking Fabio. Do you remember the actor / model?
Smelled amazing. Prediction, I think, was the question of 2 minutes ago.
I got to go with England. You always got to back England. Don't ask me to do scores because I'm just terrible at them.
I'm not sure we can know
that.
You go head rather than heart. I imagine you've just gone heart. You can't say anything else, but I'd say you can go head rather than just heart.
I think at home, Eddie knows that he's got to put performances on the field. I think that squad is still good enough to put a great performance on the field. So I think England will win. As I said before, if they want to consider themselves proper World Cup contenders and moving forward to next year, they have to win this game. I think it'll be a good game, and I think it'll be quite. If the weather's all right, I think it'll be quite a good high scoring. If the weather's not great, I think we will probably win a bit more comfortably.
Really?
Yeah,
I like the confidence.
I think we can push ourselves around the field a little bit better than what they can.
Do you know what the frustrating thing is as well?
Who's playing fly half?
Probably be Pollard. I'd have thought.
I'll say the frustrating thing as well is having been lucky enough to be involved, obviously not recently, but I did do the camp after the summer, is to see how the attack, the defence, how all those areas are constantly being worked on, and how actually when everything clicks, how good the team actually look and how dangerous they actually are.
Because in the first 20 minutes of the 2 games out in South Africa, some of the best attacking play we've seen England put together in a long time.
And that's constantly, constantly a work in progress, and it's constantly something that everyone's looking to focus on. And that environment is is addictive to when you're out of it. You want to be constantly in it because the attention to detail, because everyone's looking to constantly improve, and it's a very, very aspirational environment. So when people talk about predictions, the reason I go with England is because I've seen firsthand, not admittedly for 6 months or whatever, what they're doing behind closed doors and how intensely they train, how smartly they train, in terms of what they're trying to do, how they're trying to change the game.
We shall see what happens when Saturday comes. Thank you very much indeed.
You're watching the House of Rugby on Joe, together with Guinness.
We said at the top that for this week's Perfect Pour, we would test you, Hask, on what you think you know about Hask. We're going to get into this in a little bit more detail later on, but just a little teaser. I'm reading this. This isn't sort of research that I've done, but I'm reading it off my script. True or false? When you were younger, you didn't want to be a rugby player. You wanted to be a digger driver.
Yes. Actually, it was 2 things. I wanted to be in the SAS/SBS or a digger driver. Right. And my mum was convinced I'd get shot, so I wasn't allowed
being
to
a digger driver.
It was dangerous. You don't do a proper job. You go through someone's gas main.
Quite right.
You dig someone's septic tank up and screw the whole thing up. You're in trouble. But I actually do now genuinely have a JCB on my driveway, and I have said that I would felt like I'd made it in life. That when I opened the curtain in the morning, I saw a digger, and I've got a massive digger on my driveway. Genuine.
If you say so. What do you do with your digger?
I've actually gone and done a whole load of work at a neighbour's house in a village, and I was actually round at one of my teammates.
Did they ask you, or did you just sort of...
I was like, excavating there. I did a whole load of
show for you.
I had a whole load of ditching for him, took out 120 trees, did a whole load of levelling, and a whole load of other bits. Honestly, I was at it for about 4 or 5 months.
You got planning permission for taking those trees out, yeah?
Yeah. It's an orchard, so it was fine. And I did some work at a teammate's house. I can't name their names. And we took a few bits and pieces down and dig a few holes. So that was key.
What did you want to be when you were younger?
And I think I actually wanted to be something boring like a pilot.
An air hostess. Have you got something to tell everyone?
Yeah. Hello.
I'm having a gender assignment.
And faked hands. Yeah.
Yeah. Very good. Cool. Okay. Talking of teaser questions, last week
you drive past Windsor Castle and go, I want to live in there, and then made it happen.
Yes.
Dreams do come true.
They do.
Stop interrupting.
Through hard work.
Last week, do you remember the question you asked Andrew Trimble last week on the Baz and Andy show?
Yeah, it was something really naughty. Yeah,
Had he set up an Instagram account
Brent,
to abuse you as David Brent?
Yeah.
We've got the answer. Have a listen to this.
Yeah, everyone's been trolling him. To be fair, and so many people are trolling him that he didn't even spot that I'd been trolling him. It just slipped in there amongst other comments.
How do you troll
him? Just David Brent references
underneath his Instagram posts.
Yeah,
and so on.
with an anonymous account.
Spineless.
Standard trolling.
Your reaction?
Who were those two? No, I know. Phil Trimble, he's a good lad. And I mean, that's the kind of chat I would expect from him.
Right, okay. You've got another question for him this week. Can you remember what it is? I'll slide it over. This one here.
Can you remember what it is?
Clearly not. We're going to keep this piece on because I want everyone to know that this is definitely not my question. Do you think you have made a better theologian than rugby player if you'd stuck it out?
Do you know what a theologian is?
Yes.
Good. Just checking.
I do, actually. Do you think you would have made a better theologian if you'd stuck it out than a rugby player? Do you think you'd have better chat if you weren't a rugby player?
Or if you were still a theologian?
Yeah.
Okay. Andrew Trimble has fired you a question this week, which we want you to answer on the spot.
Right, go on then.
Come on, you've got to get a little bit more involved in this segment of the show. We're building bonds with our friends across
our
RFC.
Irish brothers.
Yes, our Irish
brothers.
Okay,
fine.
Here's the question from
I
Andrew
have a
Trimble.
question for Haskell.
Go
on. James, is it true that you do a great Rob Howley impression? And if you do, we'd love to hear it, please.
As if he's gone there.
I did actually pre-warn you.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be like insulting.
Right.
He's actually done me there really well.
Yeah. Do you want to do the impression?
No, I really don't. I'm just trying to work out if Rob Howley's going to come back into my rugby path later on. That's what we've got to remember.
Time.
Don't worry, your rugby path is over.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. I'm absolutely not. When I've sorted my ankle out, I'll be back. And I'm going to be like that guy, Kenny Powers. I'm going to ride into the Northampton Saints thing on a chariot with fireworks and dwarfs putting me. Like, that's what I'm doing.
So are you just stumps have been skittled at this point? You're going to tell you what,
Andrew. I do actually do a very good Rob Howley impression. I'm not going to do it now, but I will possibly send you a video if that's possible, because I don't think. What you've got to remember, every time you're stitching an old coach up, is are they going to come back round?
Yeah.
And in rugby, it's very incestuous. It's a lot of job for the boys, so you just never know when you're going to. So just don't knife anyone.
Do you do any other impressions that you could give Andrew as a sort of consolation prize?
Do we do any other impressions?
Do you want to have a think about it? We'll come back
I'll
to
have a think
it.
about it, yeah.
Mull over. You sort of tend to replicate most of David Brent.
Yeah, I do.
We've done that already.
We have. I'm trying to think what else I do.
More of that fun and games a little bit later on. Back to the serious stuff, though. And obviously, Ireland are off to Chicago. Used to live in Chicago in an old department store.
Is it unbelievable? I've heard it's incredible.
Chicago?
Yeah.
You don't know the song? No. Okay. Hopefully they can tidy that up in edit and we'll just move swiftly on.
Did you never live there?
No. It's a song. I used to live in department.
I knew you weren't cool enough to ever lived in Chicago.
I have
don't know what I
actually
thought.
stop the clock. I have actually once, when I was 18 or 19, I drove the whole way around the States in an 18 van for 6 months.
Shut up.
That is quite cool.
I thought you were going to say, like, when you went to America, I can imagine you like Just William with your little school cap on a blazer bag.
In an 18 van. That's exactly what I did. An apple and a bow and
I
arrow.
visited every museum.
Yeah.
The
Oh,
whole
my
of the
goodness,
Washington
is this the Big
area.
Apple? Is this the Big
Horticultural
Apple,
Society
Mummy?
of New York.
Oh, let's take a photo. let's take a photo and put it on the magic lantern when we get back to home. That's what I imagine you would have been
That
like.
is quite a good impression.
Yeah,
There you
thank
are,
you.
Andrew Trimble. That is your request for this week fulfilled. We digress because we were talking about Ireland and Chicago, which is obviously where they beat the All Blacks 2 years ago. This weekend they're taking on Italy, who've rested, most of their players. I think they're sort of looking at squad depth, I think it's fair to say, without wanting to sell the game over the top.
Yeah, but
Ireland, though, right now, tucked in behind the All Blacks? Or on a par? Or
I feel really bad whenever I talk about Ireland because I never give them the credit they probably deserve.
Now's your chance.
Go on.
Well, no, because I don't.
You can't do it.
I can't.
So
do it.
do you think they are?
No, I
they
think
are
look, it's
over
what they do,
inflated.
and no, they're not overinflated. They aren't because they win those games. But my issue with Ireland is I'm not sure they'll ever do well at a World Cup with the rugby they play currently.
Okay.
You look at the Six Nations. If you go back to the Six Nations, they could have lost 3 of their games. I know they didn't.
Yeah.
But Scotland should have. In my book, should have beaten them with the 3 tries they absolutely butchered on 2-on-1s.
Johnny Sexton's drop goal.
Yeah,
Johnny Sexton, Hail Mary.
In France. You know, that pass goes a different way in the Wales game. He makes a read. If he gets that wrong, goes over the top. You know, we talk about Stockdale and making that read and what we talk about defenders doing. I thought the way that people got round them, I actually thought Australia would go really well against them because of how they defend and how easily the Six Nations teams got round the outside of them. And I know they make probably the most passes out of any team in World Rugby, but they're all one-out runners, and they just how many times does the forward score compared to how many times does the back score in terms of it. You know, Stockdale, most of their back strides are intercepts. Yeah. So, but in the same
You're doing them
breath,
down for the number 2 team in the world.
I'm doing them down, but then I'm going to say, but what they do, they are outstanding at.
Yeah.
In terms of everything they do, the way they break down teams in terms of where they're going to attack, into the inside balls, and the way they then deliver their game plans on a match day and stick to them. Gets them those results.
Yeah.
But I always believe a team can beat them, which is weird because they don't.
Yeah.
but that, I think they are just great at getting results.
Yes.
Now, do they always play out of their skin? No, but they always get the job done. And the Irish are always, you go back to Soldier Fields when they beat New Zealand. If you give an Irish team something to play for, you know. That's when they become unbeatable because I don't know what they have inside them, but when they have a reason to win a game, they always seem to get it done. Spoil an English party, they're brilliant at that. Yeah. And then, obviously for Axel, they had to win that game, figure of 8. Immediately I saw the figure of 8, I was like, they're probably not going to lose. They're not going to lose today. Yeah. And they went out there and did that.
Do they challenge you as much intellectually as physically, Ireland? Are they one of those teams? I mean, when you take on the box, everyone says it's just a brutal arm wrestle. With Ireland, do you find yourself having to be sort of switched on?
I think we asked about the level of chat on the field. They'd like throw me a maths challenge as I'm running into them.
Which team gives the most verbals? Australia? It's a sort of standard place to go.
No, I don't.
Not at the moment.
No, very true. I'll actually answer your question for once. I think they do.
Saracens.
And for me, as for me, yeah, actually Saracens do. Yeah, constantly. I think. For me, Ireland are have always been kind of one of the toughest teams I've ever played against. They've ruined the party so many times for us on a number, twice Grand Slam games they've taken away for us. 2011, we had that Grand Slam game, and I actually all the lads blamed it on me. The reason we lost because the night before I had
that wasn't the Nick Kennedy game.
Oh no, maybe no, it wasn't.
No,
it wasn't. It was where we got pumped in the first half. We had we lost the point. And Steve Thompson got one try. Do you remember we got that lineup? But the reason was the night before I had a bit of dry skin, and my missus at the time gave me some moisturiser, and I put it on, and she was, "Oh, do your whole body." I did my whole body, and I realised it was that one that has a tan in it. So I came down, honestly, literally like someone from the Only Way is Essex, glowing. All the lads at the team run when we went for a walk, so we got off the bus. People were in hysterics, and they solely blame me because I came down. Everyone didn't believe that I hadn't done it on purpose, so I completely upset the equilibrium of the entire team, and then we got humped. And then Steve Thompson was the only one from England to score an intercept try. But I think they do challenge you because, as Tin says, they do their analysis. They're very good at what they do. They bring a real intensity. They have a massive passion to beat England. And when we actually go to the Aviva, it's my kind of least favourite stadium because I don't really have any good memories of ever playing there. But it normally, you turn up, it rains, that little wizard man comes out, casts a spell, and then we always get pumped. And it's always St Patrick's Day. It's always super intense.
I can just hear the editors saying they're going to put the fake tan into the bit that sells the show. You know how they always put out 3 stories.
Yeah.
Haskell fake tan. I'd love to get more, but we must skip on. Wales, Scotland, obviously for the Doddy Wear Cup, which has been a bit of a mess this week in terms of the SRU and the WRU not putting any money in. Now they are going to put 6 figures in, which is fantastic news and a very worthy cause. Do you come across Doddy out and about?
Yeah.
One of the great guys and a fantastic cause.
Unbelievable guy. I think just the heart and soul of any room that he's in.
Yeah.
And it's just sad that it always happens to those guys. And I think how the rugby community sort of got behind him.
Yeah.
We did that dinner in London and we raised over 600 grand or whatever.
Amazing.
It was just amazing. And I hope we find a cure for it because we've lost Hughes van der Vestes into it. Jared Cunningham, and then unfortunately Doddy's got it now as well. But as long as we can keep supporting and keep putting as much money into the research behind it, it's a disease that just has no research for it. That's taking the same pill that they were taking 20 years ago or whatever, and there needs to be that research, but no one really knows where to start with it.
No, beautifully put. And obviously it'll be an emotional occasion, but hopefully a sort of joyful one as well. I suppose I don't want to linger on the WRU SRU thing, but it's right that they are putting money into the pot, do you think? You were talking a while ago about rugby losing its soul. It's sort of, to put a game on with Doddy's name on it and not to put anything in the pot seemed a little bit sort of insincere. So they've made the right decision in that regard.
100%. I actually thought, how sort of people rally around Ed Jackson, how with God, my name's gone blank now.
What's the question?
No, I know what the question was. I'm thinking of the player that Saints.
Rob Horne.
Rob Horne, sorry. So I think it's amazing how everyone sort of got round Ed Jackson when he broke his neck, and Rob Horne, the game they put on. I think England, all rugby teams do that really well from the grassroots level to the senior, and it's really important that the governing bodies and the unions do get behind it, because if you're going to do that game, then you need to put money into it, and I think it's very important.
What about the game?
No, yeah, damn right. It could, obviously. You look at the Rob Horne situation, that could happen to anyone.
Yeah.
So you've got to support that sort of thing. Obviously, motor neuron disease is slightly different. You don't think that can't just happen, but it's still one of our own, and it sends out a message of what you are as a sport behind how you get behind these guys who have to go through this. And I think rugby, what separates rugby is the way that all teams get behind people.
And I don't think people as well appreciate what we go through, like body wise. I just don't think it's one of those things that players obviously want to support other players because they are in the same boat, and the risks they take. The freak accident that Rob Horne had. Obviously Ed hurt himself off the field. Matt Hampson in that scrummaging session, and then on top of it all, you get these degenerative diseases. It's a lot of rugby players are broken by the time they're 50, and then to get something like that on top of it is not ideal. So anybody who's involved in it, there should always be that support, and I think you see it as well, because we get asked as players, professional players, to support grassroots where somebody's been injured or something's happened, and you don't hear a lot about these things, but people breaking their necks, or I remember there's a guy that broke his leg, had to have it amputated, all sort of things like that, and they're always constantly trying to raise funds, and I think it's our duty to keep putting it out there, keep supporting our own, and the RFU, SRU and WRU all have to get behind it.
RPA as well. Beautifully put. What sort of physical nick are you in nowadays? Your nose looks fantastic. I mean, so bit by bit, you're getting better in one regard. But do you have aches?
I've looked 50 for about 15 years, so hopefully by the time I get 50, I'll look 50.
Yeah,
so that'd be great.
Playing catch up. But do you have? I mean, do you struggle to get out of bed in the morning, or an ankle that plays up in the wind?
No, back and neck would be the only thing that sort of annoy me, but I don't think any rugby player sort of comes out without.
I imagine that when you wake up in the morning, it's a bit like that.
I know exactly what
I
knew you were going to say that.
Exactly like that. Yeah, and he just comes and plays it, and there's a band, and he comes in, and then he's in the bar. Yeah, exactly. Pops out, and then he comes down for breakfast.
Well, I'd like to say it's not, but
100% it is. Yeah, just lying on really, really soft cushions stuffed with cash.
I love it.
That's what I imagine it to be.
What
Elephants like walking past the window.
Are you all right? You mentioned your ankle, or are you in bits?
I'm intrigued to see what I'll be like later on.
Do you worry about it?
I think if you start worrying about it, or you start being tentative about it, that's actually when you get more injured. I think you have to just go into it wholeheartedly. I think you have to constantly look at your technique and things like tackling and all those bits. We've covered that before. But I think looking after yourself, your nutrition, not
Haskell will be fine because his life is so built around his nutrition, training, looking after himself. I think that the thing is, when you retire, if you stop doing stuff, then everything starts to hurt, because you have to keep doing something to keep that mobility, and that would be the biggest thing. So Haskell won't do that, because he's got a franchise of gyms and
F45 in Bath coming soon. I tell you what I will do. I'm going to go to America, and I'm going to put my hands in one of those anti-aging doctors, and they'll disappear.
Someone did that the other day on
television. But there's massive of those. They go there in Hollywood, and I expect them to rebuild me, and I might actually come back for another comeback. They'll be like, "Oh my god, full head of hair, like everything growing back, fingers straightened." Possibly.
Do you want to do it before the World Cup or after the World Cup?
Listen, if I could get away with it, I would, but I'm not sure it's all play with a straight bat, is it? So once I'm done, then that might be the full.
Exactly. Bit of HGH.
Amazing how we started on Wales Scotland. Quick prediction, just for what it's worth, on Wales Scotland. Okay, let's move straight on to the perfect call. I reckon you answer 1 in 10 of the questions I ask.
Yeah, because there's so listen, when we talked about setting up this show, we said we wanted it to be informative, we wanted to be fun, but we did not want to be noisy. So much of your questions are absolutely noisy. If you want to go to noisy, go to that one where they sit in their bedroom with all the shirts around, chatting absolute rugby chat the whole time. We need a mix here. So don't get too... You don't want to be noisy, do you?
No.
Because everyone just goes to sleep. If you want to watch rugby, watch that. Just read the paper or something.
It'd be nice to pop an element of rugby into a
rugby
podcast.
We do. We've chatted rugby. We've had in-depth, behind-the-scenes bits and pieces. We don't want to go absolutely
You're talking about going to
noisy.
America to have your hands manicured.
No, not manicured. But look at my hands, right? Look at these fingers. They are literally
a mess.
That one needs a little bit of work, doesn't it?
Yeah, that one's been fixed.
What
into
happened
place.
to them out of interest? I mean, is this all rugby, or is this just sort of shutting in car doors and things like that?
It's not that simple.
But unfortunately for Haskell, it's really trying to catch.
Yeah,
it's true.
The ball's hitting the end. That's what happened to his nose.
Savage. Right, talking of prime physical conditioning, it's time for this week's Perfect Pour. It's Haskell on Haskell. I sort of wish we had a jingle for this, really.
Yeah, well, we could get that if we had a bigger budget and people actually put us in first place. So
we
forget
set
Peter Crouch.
up a donation page to get a jingle for Haskell on Haskell. How much do you know about yourself? You've got 119.5 seconds to answer as many questions as you can, because that's how long it takes to pour the perfect pint of Guinness. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'd still like to have a perfect pour pint of Guinness in front of me. We still don't have that.
Perfect pour
Pick up a perfect pint. Okay, ready, steady, go. You once said, I've got big arms. I joke about selling 2 tickets to the gun show. True or false?
False.
True.
What?
And we've got the evidence to prove it.
Made that up, yeah.
You listened to Walking in Memphis before a game of rugby. True or false?
True.
Why?
It was early days, in the early days of my playlist. It was a very emotive song back in the day.
At school, you were in the school spelling club.
False.
Which club were you in?
Chess club.
Were you good?
I actually had one game, one victory, and they said it was because I threatened to kill the kid, but I didn't. I beat him because I got all the nerds in
Gary
my house.
Kasparov could learn a thing or two.
I got all the nerds in my house to teach me a special manoeuvre, and I did it to this kid, and he just folded up like a deck chair.
Right. Savage. True or false? You're obsessed with Starsky and Hutch.
False.
Who are you obsessed with in terms of TV characters?
Well, Alan Partridge, Ricky Gervais.
The answer here is Sherlock Holmes.
Oh yeah, Sherlock Holmes. Yeah, and what Poirot. I love that. I listened to 75 hours of Sherlock Holmes, and then I found that Stephen Fry did the Sherlock Holmes, and I re-listened to it with him. 75 hours.
Your middle name is Wellborn.
Yeah, it's very chintzy. It's a bit like mock Tudor cladding, or
Do you only wear red cords?
Yeah, like Royal Miniatures. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's very chintzy.
That's where you meet his dad and you realise where Wellborn.
Yeah. Where it's gone, he's got it from a market. Going, Susie, it's unbelievable. We've got Wellborn in the name. We're double barreled. We're going to make it. That's right. That's what it's come about.
Any interesting middle names?
No.
Cuthbert, Dibble, St. John Smiley.
Additions. You used to eat 5 rotisserie chickens a day.
No, it's false.
How many was it?
3.
Everyone knows you as a joker, life and soul of the party, but you recently claimed you were a loner. True or false?
True.
Is that self-appointed or just ostracised?
A bit of both, actually. I say this about
He's a
myself.
very sensitive soul.
Are you?
In there, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
And
Mike's
there's a lot
known
of
me since the early
There's
days.
a lot of bravado to cover over the top of it.
No, but
and bluster.
also remember that when we're one-on-one, the sensible comes out. If there's any sort of crowd, then I enjoy the performance thing. That's why roommates always hate being with me. So I remember Simon Shaw sat on the end of the bed and went, "Go on then." I was like, "What do you mean?" He was like, "Entertain me." That's why I got to share a room with you. And I was like, "Simon, I'm just minding my business here." And I went back to doing work.
Work?
I work a lot. I'm a workaholic, genuine.
Are you?
Yeah.
Always making notes on everything in life?
Well, yeah, not like an artiste, not not sort of reflecting on everything.
not that. But
the sun dappled that tree in a lovely way. Yeah.
But don't you make?
I make a lot of
notes?
notes, yeah. And so, for example, to and from here it takes 2 hours. I do all my emails. I'm writing another book. I'm doing a few bits and pieces, editing, all sorts. Making a new DJ mix with Affected.
What's the book? We're so out of time, but we're going to keep going because
Yeah.
this is quite interesting.
Yeah.
What's the book about?
So there's 2. I can't reveal what one is, but the other one's a book's coming out after Christmas called Cooking for Fitness. Cooking for Fitness, yeah.
Really?
It's a cookbook.
Have you written a book? Did you do an autobiography? Not interested.
Doesn't need to.
He's just shaking his head for those who are listening. Not watching. On to word association. It's a family game. You can join in actually, Tins, here. Brexit.
Balls up.
Get out.
Raw horse. This is actually for you, Hask, specifically. Word association. Raw horse.
Delicious.
Yeah, good meal. I was
Because?
going to say that.
I ordered it in Japan. I thought it was steak tartare, and they served up raw horse, and I ate it, and it was incredibly lovely.
Trust on, you'd probably find that a bit upsetting, wouldn't you, with your background?
No,
Not
some horses are bred to
Mate,
be.
the country gents, they whiz a horse for a wood chipper and just have it all down in their plates.
Purebred horse.
What's for dinner?
Are you still in the horses? What have you got anything at the moment?
We've got a little syndicate that buys flats as weanlings and sells them as yearlings.
Anything
out
that's
in
going to-
out in Australia. We sell them in Australia.
Weanlings, woomlings, and fun.
Anything that's going to come through in the same
No,
way?
not at the moment. Not at the moment.
Neil Back, word association.
Lovely chap.
I would go lies on that, but interesting,
Lovely bloke, yeah.
intense.
Your nickname. We were talking about this earlier. Your nickname, apparently either the machine or .com.
Oh, yeah, so .com was an early one, and that was because, unbeknownst to myself, my dad had set up a website.
As part of Brand Haskell. You missed the Brand Haskell chat in week 1
Doesn't
where
exist.
you denied it.
Doesn't exist.
But there was brandhaskell.com.
No, so what happened was I was doing some stuff for some sponsors. My dad got creative and thought it'd be a good idea to have a website to be able to showcase some bits and
And
pieces.
you wonder where Brand Haskell came from.
And the problem was that I hadn't really ever done anything yet, and it just went down like a shitstorm, and all the lads at WASP found out about it. And there was a part where you could contact me. I would say I was getting 50 emails a day from Warren Gatland. We hate you. You are shit. Right, from Sean Edwards. You're the worst player I've ever seen. And just lads going, I'm going to kill you. Like, it was horrific.
His dad has a lot to answer for.
Yeah, and I was like, Dad, please take it down. They're bullying me. Peter Scrivener at the time thought he was going to come into the change room and find me hanging from the rafters. They got bad. I got that abused. So then everyone started calling me .com. And then what was the other one? The Machine.
The Machine.
Oh, that was in France at Stade Francais, because in France, like doing extras after training, it's like a dirty word. It's like a factory in France. When the thing goes, woo, they all literally down tools and off. So I was doing like extra fitness and tackling. They were like, always more, La Machine. So I rolled with that.
Did you do the calendar?
Yeah, 3 times.
Yeah.
Did you do the calendar as well? You did Help for Heroes calendar. You
Yeah.
have done a calendar. There is a photo out there.
No, we did
That was
the
England in the early days.
NSPCC
that's what it
one
was.
full stop thing for England. Yeah, we did the England calendar that was a naked one, didn't we?
Still available.
I'm not sure, did Max ask you?
No.
No, I'm not really sure you're his type.
No.
Bit rugged.
Yeah.
We'll come on to Max another time.
Shawsey did it.
Right.
Yeah, have you seen Shawsey's one
Shawsey's-
stuffed up in a corner with his bum in the air? So Shawsey was so uncomfortable. These are available on Google.
Yeah,
Have a look.
there's nothing worse than the Evanses.
But do clear your finder. Oh, the Evanses. Yeah, they were key.
This is a purely accidental segue, but the next question is sausages, which I don't think is necessarily Shawsey.
Yeah.
But word association sausages.
Love them.
Good. Richard and Judy.
Love them.
Royal weddings. Love them.
Fun.
Hat trick. Good. I think we've learned
Did you
quite a
see
lot
that the
about
other day? I told a funny story about your wedding. I obviously don't know the details, but this journalist ran with it and then made out that I picked up a female member of the royal family.
Did you?
And no, I didn't. I didn't do it, and it was really bad. And they had to apologise. I won. Beat you, media. 1-0.
You've got to let it go.
I can't.
we're
Honestly,
still
that's bad.
recording,
That
or
you
we
can't
just
pick up women.
Yeah. Well, then, and also if you let one slide, then they'll use that as a point of reference for the next.
Do you know what the worst one today that's really got under my skin was with this was a wedding thing, right? With Chloe, is that I said the best music to ever have after a wedding would be garage. I reckon for our generation, everyone likes that kind of music. You know, build up to it. It's fun. You know all the words. And I said Craig David would be great to have at your wedding. They then wrote to I'm getting Craig David to come to sing our wedding. To I've paid $100,000 to have Craig David. To Chloe and I have fallen out because I've paid $100,000 to have Craig David. And I said in the piece originally, I hope he does it for mates rates. If he's charging me $100,000 to come and sing at my wedding, he's not a mate. So, and I don't have $100,000 to pay for Craig David. I've got £5 for the Wurzels or whatever it is. Actually, I wouldn't be able to afford them. Got my mum on a guitar.
The rugby podcast that finishes on falling out with Craig David.
He's a legend. He is a good boy.
You cannot buy content like that. Chaps, highly entertaining. A huge addition to the show. Thank you very much, Steve. You're back next
enjoy-
week, aren't you?
Yes,
Is that in
I
your
am.
diary or not? Please
Yeah,
back,
I-
back from
just as I land in on Augusta Tuesday morning, just
my
for the
God.
show. I'm coming back just for the show.
They must be paying you a fortune, which we will be discussing.
on next week's show. We will leave it there. Thank you very much indeed to all of you for watching and listening and for some very kind feedback again. You're getting a lot of love.
Am I?
Yeah, I think so. It's unusual, I know, but take it while it's there. I think your dad is leaving a lot of the comments, but it's nice to. Warren Gatton and Rob Howley haven't yet.
And the website's back up, jameshaskell.com.
Exactly. Go and buy the products.
Yeah, lots of them.
Just to remind you, we're a YouTube show and a podcast as well. You can download episodes from wherever you get your podcasts. Please do leave us a review, a nice one. They will help. Haskell and I and Mike are back next week. Have a wonderful week in the meantime. Good luck to England.
You've been watching the House of Rugby on Joe, together with Guinness. Drink responsibly. Visit drinkaware.co.uk for the facts.